This is a training video by LCE Graphics, and this video is pertaining to utilizing the 4-stitch head option on the Duplo 4000 booklet maker. The first step is to declutch the heads so that the wire does not feed using the orange knobs. Turn them both off, and then the next step is removing the stitch former. The stitch former should always be out of the stitch heads unless the stitch heads are in use, because otherwise the guides, when they move back and forth, can hit the stitch former and give you a code. So remove the stitching former. Now the next thing we need to do is loosen the stitch heads and move them over. Using your locking knob on the back side. Now notice on the scale we have marked where the stitch head goes for standard CD booklet 2-up. So what you can do is you can also mark for any specific jobs that you have on your scale, so you can always put your stitch heads right back where they were before. Now we're going to loosen both stitch heads and move them all the way over to the operator side and lock them down. Now the clinchers under here is the next thing that we have to move. You have to go underneath to the locking screw that is on the bottom, underneath the clincher, loosen it, and then move the clincher over, sliding over to the side just like that. And now the next one. Now with both stitch heads and both clinchers moved all the way to the operator side, you can now run any size booklet. The only thing you have to be careful about is if you're running a full-size booklet, that you're not going to be able to run the stitch head all the way out to the outside. You may have to remove the stitch heads if you run a booklet larger than 12 inches. So keep that in mind. It's very rare that our customers use booklets that large. But another thing you can do is, if you have a booklet that large, you can always use 3 staples, setting the 2 stitch heads on the inside and then using one of your auxiliary stitch heads as your 3rd staple, and that helps because you don't have to remove the stitch head to do it that way, and it typically doesn't hurt if you have 3 staples in the book. Now this completes our video for securing the stitch heads after they're being used and not in use any longer. We lock out the clutch so that the wire can't be fed, and we remove the stitch former from the stitch head so that everything can move freely. In our next video, we'll explain how to set up the stitch heads from this position. Thank you.